Good afternoon, Angela.
Hello, hello, hello. Lovely to see you.
It's really lovely to see you. Now, for the sake of whoever watches this, I've had the privilege of knowing Angela for 50 years.
Nearly. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and in times of monumental distress, when I didn't know what I'd been diagnosed with, and I was living with quite a lot of dysfunctional behavior from a few people in my life. Angela was the absolute angel who supported me. So it's a great privilege that I'm now going to have the opportunity maybe to answer a question for Angela. And I know you well enough, Angela, that your question will be relevant to other people. So
Thank you.
give me the question. Let's see how I can do.
Okay.
So your question, I think, was around, let me get your words. Your question was going to be around how do you stay calm and detached? So do you want to add to that a bit?
Well, I think sometimes I've been able to, as it were, stand back and watch, um, detach from myself, or detach from what's going on. But I'm always interested to know how other people manage with this because it's absolutely essential if one's going to survive, especially if it's on the emotional front. So um, it's wonderful if one can just add perhaps sort of bits of knowledge that people have picked up along the way and sharing about how to keep calm or how they've kept calm during, sort of eruptions in life, which seem to keep on coming, especially now.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a wonderful question because I don't know about anybody else, but I definitely grew up with quite a few illusions, and I think I definitely grew up with some magical thinking. And one of my magical thinking ideas or concepts was that when I grow up and when I find out how to live my life, then everything's going to calm down. There will be no more dramas. But what I hadn't worked out was that while I'm alive, what that means is that there will always be challenges. And the reason why I love this word unravel, and it's why I'm sort of always introducing it to people, is that now I know that even nature herself is teaching us that we're constantly unraveling another layer. So having been willing to get rid of some of the illusions that I've lived with, what I love is the idea that I can practice every single day. I don't think I arrive. I think it's a practice every day. A level of detachment that does keep you calm. So, for instance, when you're living with some very nasty medical conditions, I think that it's very similar to living with some very nasty situations or conditions or economical situations. Or I work with people in Africa, for instance, who there's no water. So what I've now discovered is whether it's a medical condition or you're caring for someone who's got medical circumstances, or you're going to lose someone, or you have been faced with a singular death or multiple deaths, or your relationships are challenged, or you're in Africa and you literally don't have enough water to feed your dogs, let alone you don't have enough water for yourself, let alone your dogs. life has a way of just being monumentally challenging. And yet we can influence the impact the outside has on us.
Yes.
And I think that I think it's really important to remember, but to keep on finding ways of reminding ourselves and each other that we are not our circumstances. We are not our bodies. We are not even the enormous emotional turmoil that we will inevitably go through. So I love when I built the Spirit Pain Connection program, a 7-week program, to really transform pain physically, mentally, and spiritually. I talked about there being 3 accounts. And the reason why I think that's important is because we do have within us a spirit or an essence that is, I think, beyond the concepts of religion, which is actually our primary account that we need to stay focused on. Because if we can be igniting our essence, our spirit, even if you want your personality, you then have more choices about how you deal with the outside. And I even mean the outside, your jacket, your body, and your emotional states. So I in particular don't teach ever that it's okay to bypass your emotional states. You need to have them, you need to have the flow, but you don't have to get stuck there. And I didn't know that growing up.
No.
So I think the other thing that I suppose I do myself, and I encourage other people to, there's a metaphor of, when we get in the car, if we're still driving, we have to put our hands on the steering wheel and we have to plug into the sat nav or read a map, and we have to decide where we're going. And the thing about life is it requires us to keep our hands on the steering wheel and keep on deciding where are we going and what do we want. So even if I don't have choices necessarily about further surgeries or whatever it is, I do have a choice about how do I want to do my day now. And my choice, my 2 focuses, I want to be peaceful and I actually want to be joyful, because those 2 are like WD-40 for my conditions. If I'm living lightly and joyfully and peacefully, if that becomes my norm, then I'm rewiring my whole being. But it does take practice, because given the wiring of my generations before me, I can tell now at this age that we all have a tendency to just slip off the road. We kind of take the focus off the steering wheel and we've crashed. And I don't want to any longer. I'm just not interested. So no matter what is coming at us, I think if we are willing to value ourselves enough, I think we have much more capacity to stay calm and steady than I previously thought, anyway.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And there's, to some extent, I think I probably do, going through your program, there are things I thought, oh yes, I know, I think I do that, or oh yes, I recognize that. I think I shifted a bit from, well, I must have done. It's all about acceptance. And that's the only word I can say. I think practicing acceptance has probably been the best thing you can do. I found a book. It's funny how these things come at you. A bookmark suddenly appeared, which I'd had for ages. And it said, let nothing disturb thee. And there was something about the thee that was incredibly personal. And it sounded like a really sort of divine command. And I often I have to come back to it because I've got a lot of things I'm still carrying from my childhood. I've been looking back over the last 20 years and realizing that I had actually quite a crap time at the time. But I was too loyal to acknowledge it. But let nothing disturb thee. It's almost like a lullaby, isn't it? You could sing that to a little child. And I find that it has a power, which, if I come back to it, it's fine. It sort of puts the setting right again. And I think sometimes these things just appear. The other thing I think is that often, as far as I'm concerned, I'm always quite sure that you can't be self-conscious about these things, because I'm probably not talking quite the same level as you are, Catherine, but if I'm managing to sort of change my energy or have a decent energy, I don't necessarily know who I might be affecting. And I think that keeps you humble, or helps to keep you humble. Yeah. And so that's another thing that I thought of. And I want to keep going back over your program to polish it up, if you know what I mean. It's just so helpful. And what struck me most, one of the things that struck me most, was that you said about the little but profound changes. And that's another thing, because especially in my family, there's a tendency to right, let's get that fixed, and we do it yesterday. Yeah. And it's, two of my family are like that, and myself and the other one are not. But we all know why. But it's yes, it is. You tend to come back and say no. And often I'm sort of in a frightful state about something, and a picture of a flower comes to my mind, because I can look at the lovely flowers in my little garden, and they really, really nurture the soul. Yeah. And years ago, I used to think, before I was married, I really thought this, if I had a baby, I think I'd like to have it in a field, because that's nearer to nature. Yes. It was obviously not possible, but, I sort of, I've always had that sense. And that's helped a great deal. That has helped a great deal. And it's almost like deliberately saying, well, just look at something that's calm, just absorb something that is calm. And I've always had a sense, I did have a sense when I was sort of practicing yoga and things, of isness, what I call isness. And you can look at a flower or a tree, and it's just is. Yeah. It's being itself. Yeah. And it's looking at you and thinking, I often think that. So if you just sort of look at these things, and we get a lot of birds here, it's such fun to watch them. And they can be so funny and that sort of thing. And maybe as you get older, you do more of that, because you're not rushing out to work, or, bringing up small toddlers. But I found that sort of thing nourishing, and there's lots of it there if you look.
Yeah, and it's the English language is amazing because you can dissect very simply one little word like willingness. You know, what lengths are you willing to go to? Is one willing to go to do the next bit of your life gently and kindly towards yourself,
Absolutely.
and then therefore others.
Yes.
And what I love is now understanding the impact that I can have on my chemistry, on conditions that I was born with, on myself, on my family, my friends. I don't even necessarily have to be with my friends, but if I'm calm, I can sort of almost x-ray them from a distance with just love and thoughts.
Yes.
So, you know, when we know we have tough stuff coming at us, I've got a thing going on at the moment where almost certainly I have to have more surgery, and in a way I'm not telling anyone about it yet because I don't really know, and I don't want to focus on it because it's not here today now between you and I. So why you know, it's almost like preparing for the winter when we're in the summer, and I'm going to start discussing with you what am I going to wear in the winter.
Yes.
We're not in the winter, and there's so much that I don't know. So why on earth do I waste my energy?
Yes, well, I think it's, that what you're speaking about, although it's there, but it's not in dealing with it is not in today's present moment.
No.
So the present moment is all that exists.
Yeah. And I think we have a tendency to project.
Oh, very much so. Very much so.
I mean, you and I, that's a language that you and I understand. But
yes,
for the sake of anyone listening to this, if you want to stay calmer, catch yourself projecting.
Yes.
Making up stories.
Yes.
So let's use me as an example. Angela, I've got to have, and just watch my energy and what we do.
Yes.
This is what most of us do. It's like, Angela, I've got to have surgery again, and they're going to cut my neck open in 2 different places. I don't know what the recovery is going to be like, and before I know it, I've managed to make myself feel practically sick with terror. Yes. I'll get you whizzed up. Do you know what I mean? And actually, the truth is, I don't know. I don't have to tell a story. Yeah. And I'm not saying this. The stories are really important. But when it comes to a decision about do I want to remain calm,
yes,
then stop making stuff up, Catherine. Yes. And I'm medically trained, so I'm entitled to make stuff up. Yes. But I still don't want to.
No.
So the real answer to the question, but of course there are many, many ways of answering this, is asking ourselves, what do we want? When we wake up this morning, or we wake up, tomorrow, or we go to sleep tonight, are we willing to assess, did we keep our hands on the steering wheel?
Yes.
Because we need that feedback. When we take our hands off the steering wheel, or I don't know about you, Angela, but all the hell lets loose, in my world. Whereas if I gently kind of know where I'm going with the attitude of how I want to go there, then it's extraordinary how all the problems somehow get sorted out.
This is going against all Western thinking, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's what we've been told. I was brought up as an only child in an atmosphere of, we've got to worry. And my
So
mother, I'm sure, was bipolar now, looking back. And my father was a mixture because he was, like a little iron man. He was tough, but he was also very nervous. So depending what was happening. So he was, self-employed. So that was a terrible worry. Was there going to be any work and all that sort of thing? And also that generation had got the memory of the Great Depression, which messed everything up terribly for people. And the ethos was very different then about work and so forth. And he had the chance to go into business on his own at a time which was not very sort of exciting for that sort of thing in the early 50s. But so it was sort of rigid with worry, the whole atmosphere.
yeah.
And it left me very much thinking, am I getting it right? Am I, I'd better worry because that's going to make it better. I'll worry with them,
Yeah.
And it's a hard one to crack. And my two children both have that problem. The other thing is I've been looking at, I've joined the ancestry thing. And it's very interesting looking back over all these people and our varied histories. And I think, well, how much are we carrying from, am I still fighting battles that my ancestors were fighting? What do we bring in with us from them? In the sense of just inherited, quirks and things. And one just doesn't know. So it's not a question of, it's a question of how to handle things. And that's where it can be done. But I think we do need to find like-minded souls who are doing it as well, as in Al-Anon, where you've got people who understand the language.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 12-step fellowship, which for people who are listening to this don't know anything about it. So 12-step fellowship is all over the world. So if you have issues with any levels of addictions, from literally pornography, alcohol, drugs, gambling, there are 12-step programs where you can join, but there's also family groups of family members. So it is extraordinary what is out there, and you don't necessarily need, because the first thing that a lot of people think nowadays in particular is, how am I going to afford that? But actually the 12 steps in particular, you if you're able to, you put a contribution. I think you opening right at the end of this interview, the can of worms about the ancestors. I think we better book in another one, and we better talk about the ancestors. I think it's a really good question. But I'm going to just complete on this question. And do you feel as if that has partially answered a really quite big question?
Oh yes, I do. I think I'm better at it than I think I am, if you know what I mean.
I think you were teaching me this about a long time ago.
But,
so I'm a product partly of your grace.
I had very good guidance myself then. So I was passing that on, spiritual.
Well, I'm to this day profoundly grateful, and it's lovely that we can do this. And I'm really serious. If you want to ask, for the sake of you and I, but also other people out there, we will tackle the ancestors, because my training has a lot to say about it.
Oh, lovely.
Yes. So I'm going to stop this recording, and thank you very, very much, Angela.
Thank you very much, Catherine. It's been lovely to share this with you. Thank you.